Our scripture reading is coming out of the Gospel of John, and John's real unique in the sense that he always tries to help us understand the relationship that Jesus had with God is the same type of relationship that we are to have with Jesus. So if you just kind of think a little bit about how God and Jesus were always seen to be on the same page, and Jesus could think for God and vice versa, that is how we are to have a relationship with Jesus and therefore have a relationship with God. And so he always tries to help us understand how we're all kind of interwoven together. And if we do grasp and understand that, then we're capable of doing the very things that Jesus was doing. And so this is one of the analogies he uses in the 15th chapter in the first 7 verses. I am the true vine. My Father is the vine grower. God removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. So abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me. I'm the vine. You are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch, and it withers. And such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me, my words abide in you. Ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. Obviously, we hear a word a lot in this particular text. It's called abide. Important word for John. What does that particular word mean? Because in this gospel, Jesus tells us right up front that if we are to be a follower of his, then it is our goal, our responsibility to reach this point in our journey of faith to be able to have or to abide in Jesus. So what does that mean? What does that look like to you? I think in this sense, to abide is to allow Christ to live in us, is allow Christ to dwell within us. Because even in the same section here is Jesus telling us right from the start, folks, if you allow me to be into your life and you live and allow me to live in you, you can do things far more than I was ever capable of doing. That's a pretty big statement. That we are able to do more than what Jesus did. You believe that? I think there's some doubt in a lot of our lives. Abiding, to me, means something very simple. It's to be on the same page as Jesus. Be on the same page with God. You ever have those relationships, don't you? People that you know so well, you talk to constantly, are so much a part of their lives that you know what they're thinking, you know what they want before you even have to say a word. That you're able to do things for them that you know they want to be done. To me, that's being on the same page. That is what it means to abide. Abiding to me means able to be on the same page with God. And I'm telling you what, it is a daily lesson for me in my particular personal life to know that the only obstacle that I have to overcome in order for Jesus to abide in me is what? Is me. Another word for that is selfishness. Our movie is a good example we'll be using today. It's Bruce Almighty. Everybody's favorite actor, Jim Carrey. Not. But it's a fantastic lesson. If you're a drama king or queen, you'll love this movie. It's right up your alley. But it's a good example of what it means to abide in God. Once he has to learn the very hard lesson on how to get himself out of the way, to overcome his own self, his own obstacle. Obviously, this is a movie about a guy named Bruce, right? You know that. Or it would be Bruce Almighty. Bruce is a news reporter. Very talented guy. That's what he was meant to do. He's very successful in what he does. People love him. He brings laughter. He brings life to everyone around him. But, for Bruce, being a news reporter just isn't enough. Why? Well, it's not prestigious enough, is it? You don't make enough money doing that. You're not on a billboard. You're not popular enough. So he wants to get that top level. He wants to be the news anchor, and he'll do everything that he possibly can to get that position. It just is so a part of his life. And when he tries every bit of his own personal ability to do something he wasn't really created to do, he fails. And when he fails, who does he blame? I'm sorry, I was talking to y'all. I didn't know you were here. Who would he fail? Fails God. Who would he blame? Why are you picking on me, God? Why can't you give me what I want? And so he blames God. And I know we've all been in this situation before, but see if it's been to this extent, maybe not this dramatic, okay? Look at this clip. Been there, done that, huh? If there's one message that Jesus says over and over and over and over again, it's pretty much this. Hey, earth people, if you put your life, if you put your career, if you put your family, if you put your stuff, if you cannot stop focusing everything that is about you, then you are taking the place of God as the center point of your life. Bruce's girlfriend's name is what? Y'all pick that up? Grace. That's not by coincidence, okay? In this movie, she represents selflessness, caring, understanding. Grace, see the analogy, tries to reason with Bruce. Bruce does not listen to Grace, because Bruce cannot see beyond what Bruce wants. She gives him prayer beads that you'll see throughout these clips. It's kind of a way for him to communicate with God and just to have the presence of God about him. But instead, what does he do with his prayers? He uses them to his advantage. Sound familiar? Watch this clip. Well, after this little temper tantrum, that was God who was trying to get his attention through the pager, right? So he goes and he has a meeting with God. Calls him. He doesn't know it's God because it's a black man in a white suit. So obviously, we wouldn't consider that to be the case. So Bruce does what we all want to do, right? We want to have that, just show me a sign, just give me what I need. And then whenever it happens, it's not necessarily what we're looking for, so we kind of ignore those particular signs. So God calls a meeting with Bruce, says, hey, must be easy being God. I'll go ahead and let you be God for a while. And you go ahead and use all my powers the way that you need to do that to make the world a better place to live, right? So I give you the powers. The only thing you can't mess with is people's free will. They have to be able to choose for themselves. And so he does. He gives them that. And so what he does is what most spiritually mature people do, is to use those powers to restore his relationship with his girlfriend that we saw. He kind of tore up a little bit. He lost his job because of other events, so he used his power to get his job back by causing all these catastrophic events to take place around the world that he happens to be close to so that he can report them and get on the TV station, right? And then he begins to sabotage the news anchor so that he can lose his job and then he can be pushed right in. And so things are looking really good for Bruce, aren't they? All of his prayers are being answered. He is getting everything that he wants. And even his girlfriend of some 5 years is really starting to take notice, as everyone else is. And she's been waiting for that moment, right? That they're going to finally get married. And so finally that moment comes when all is right and all is about to take off. This movie kind of hits home, I think, isn't it? You can just keep them off, man. It's like be lightning in here going off and on like that. I feel like God's in control again. Thank you. Well, you got to feel good for Bruce. His prayers are answered, right? All of his prayers are answered. Everything he wants, he gets. That's what our prayers are for. It's to get what we want. So his prayers are answered. He got his dream job, right? It's going to be popular. He'll have billboards. He's got a great car now. He got everything that he absolutely wanted. But you know what? This is part of the greatest warnings that Jesus makes. And he tells us time and 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 time again. We don't listen because we're like our children, right? He keeps telling us over and over and over and over again the dangers of selfishness. The world begins to fall apart around us if it's all about us. Now, when we're successful, we're okay with that. But we fall flat on our face because what we've seen with Bruce is he has everything that he wants, but his personal life begins to fall apart. He loses everything that is important to him. On the surface, he's fine. Inside, he's not doing well. He doesn't know what to do. He's fallen apart. We've been there. And now he loses grace. Because grace doesn't have anything to do with selfishness. As a result of putting ourselves first or the center of the universe. Even though Bruce got exactly what he prayed for, his life was falling apart. And so what happens when his life begins to fall apart and all else fails, who do we turn to then? God. This is really the best part of the whole movie. So if you go get the movie and you want to go look at 1 hour and 17 minutes and watch the rest of it, that's fine. Because this is a pretty solid part that he finishes up this movie with, and I like it a lot because this is kind of what John is talking about. You know, we don't think we have the power to do what Christ was able to do. We do. We have that ability. That's what that abide issue means for us, is to be a miracle in someone else's life. And think about the miracles, right? How many times do we wish miracles would happen for us? Just give me a sign, just do this for me, and make sure I'm this, and help me see this. All I want to do is hear this and hear that and do this. And so everything that we want as a miracle is for us to see things to happen for ourselves. And here it is, Christ is turning on us and says, if you really want to have your life, be a miracle for someone else. Turn the focus off of you and look around at other people. There are so many different needs that are out there available for us that we have an opportunity to be a miracle in other people's life. Now, Bruce takes these words to heart. He does. And he's trying hard to do things the right way. He really is trying hard to do everything he can in his power to earn grace back. But what do we know about grace? Is it something you can earn? No, it's not. Grace is a way that we live and how we choose to live when we see people with the eyes of God. Then we're able to see things that we never thought were possible to see. In this final clip, Bruce has tried to earn grace, and he has failed once again. And now he reaches the best part of his life, but for him, it's the worst part of his life. Watch this clip. All right, you remember when we did a deal on Beatitudes? Some of you remember that, right? Please, we spent about 7 years on that, okay? Now, the Beatitudes are the most important document of the most important document of the Sermon on the Mount, right? The Beatitudes tell us this: you will never be able to understand God at all, not in this world, not in this life, until you put yourself in the proper position to be able to hear and to receive God's voice. That is the position of being humble. The first beatitude, does anybody know what that is? Is to be poor in spirit. If you remember anything about that, I got down on my knees and I put my hands up and says, okay, God, I need you to do something for me. This is how God wants us to be. We think of this as a process of defeat. We say, my life is ruined, it is over, I am no good for anybody. And you know what God says? You're perfect. That's perfect. Because now I can do something with you. Before all that, it was about what can I do for myself? What can I need to make things better for me? And God says, it's not about you. And once we finally fall on our face, flat down in the sand, we finally get in the position we say, okay, Lord, I'm ready to do something with me. This is when God says, you are made perfect, because now I can do something with you. Nobody wants to reach this point. But this is where God needs us. Whether we're forced by circumstances of life or if we volunteer to do it ourselves, it doesn't matter. Okay, take it off pause. Do you see the difference in before and after? Do you see it? It's not very difficult. It's to be able to see with the eyes of God and live our lives that way. How difficult is that to do? That's the hard part. And this is what Jesus means when he says, those of you who try to save your life, you lose it. Those of you who lose your life for my sake, you'll find it. Bruce is about to find a new life that he never imagined, that was out there waiting for him all along. Once he learned to see others through God's eyes and stop thinking strictly about himself and what was his. Or as Jesus would say, abiding in me as I abide in you, and those who abide in me will bear much fruit. Because apart from me, you may think you have a lot, but you have absolutely nothing. Now that's what we call being on the same page with God. That is our goal, our journey. That never stops. I want you to reflect on these questions.